November is National Entrepreneurship Month. Whether you are a business owner or interested in becoming one, educating yourself is a good first step towards success.
That's right. Richmond money expert JB Bryan is here to educate us with some tips to help us out. Hi, JB.
I am an expert at entrepreneurship.
You've been one for a long time, so you kind of know what
Almost
it's like.
as long as you've been alive, girl.
2 years.
20 years.
So you struck out on this pretty early in life, and have you ever worked for anybody else, or have you always just been JB?
Briefly, yes,
Yeah.
I did. I spent
Long enough to know this isn't for me.
It was at least 5 years in a corporate environment, and I started as a stockbroker for an investment firm. So definitely, I've been non-entrepreneur, and all of the things that we're going to talk about this morning, I've learned firsthand how important it is. Like, one of the first things I wanted to share was about why it's so important to develop a corporate entity that you're comfortable with. It's because you have to, the first thing about starting the business is separating Bill Bevins Inc. from Bill Bevins Personal. So you have to set up, do you want Bill Bevins Inc. to be a C Corp or an S Corp? Or now in Virginia, we have something called a benefit corp. So when you sit down with your professional, the lawyer, the accountant, the financial advisor, and talk about starting your own business, the first thing you should talk about is what people tend to not take that seriously. I remember when I started the business 20 years ago, really everybody became a C Corp. So I'm a C Corp, but then now there's the S and the LLC and all of these different things that we've talked about. So the decision is a little bit more complicated, and you have some advantages, some disadvantages to each corporate entity. So the first thing is to make sure you understand the tax consequences with each of the entities and the options, and select appropriately for your business.
Let's take one step back even farther than that. You're kind of thinking to yourself, I want to be my own boss. I want to start my own business. What's the deciding factors that go into that? What do you need to know before you even think about starting your own business?
You really have to think about, do you have that, the mindset of an entrepreneur? Because the only thing consistent about owning your own business is the inconsistencies that exist. So I had always had an entrepreneur mindset, even though I was in corporate America.
Does that mean you're a risk taker?
I am very much a risk taker. And even before you become an investment advisor, stockbroker, they give you like a psychological test, and before that, I'd been in sales, and then I became sales of different products, and now still the bulk of what I do is a sales mentality. So I've never had a salary. I've always been strictly commission, and that is what entrepreneurs, even if you're a plumber, you're a disc jockey that has their own business, if you're a writer, anything that you are in sales and how to sell your books, how to sell your ideas, how to sell. So you have to have that attitude that I can live off and am willing to live off my own grit. And so that would be the first step. Like, are you willing to stress out?
To get gritty.
Are you comfortable with being uncomfortable?
And you got to diversify your discomfort.
Yes,
yeah.
Very good point. I'm glad that you shared that you have to have different sources of income. And Apple, I believe, is a good example of that. They started with the computer, then they came out with the iPod, then you have the iPad, and you have the iPhone, and you have the iTunes. And so they were able to develop different sources of income and ways to serve their customers. So you might be a plumber and you first fix toilets, but then you fix sinks and you fix tubs, and then you do some renovation work. But how to add to your clients, your customers' life, and increase your sources of income so that your inconsistency isn't as inconsistent. And that's what you learn as an entrepreneur, that you find that you're in a drought and you have to discover ways of, how can I avoid that drought? How can I make sure that second quarter that over the last 5 years has always been a bad quarter for me, what can I do at that time to avoid not having any income during that time?
And that brings up a good point. Just like in our personal lives, we're encouraged to have an emergency fund. I guess your business needs to have an emergency fund as well.
Thank you. Yes, you need to make a commitment to avoid debt. And so that your emergency fund is actually just helping you sustain your basic business expenses. Because a big mistake that businesses make is the first thing they think about is what can I get a loan? And I hear that question a lot, like what can I get a loan for an entrepreneur? Are there any grants? Are there any different programs? They're looking for things that will all of us immediately create a payment obligation for them before the income has started coming in. So having the emergency fund will allow you to continue to exist through the ups and downs of business, but your emergency fund should not have to carry debt obligations. So definitely make a commitment as an entrepreneur to be debt-free, and it is possible. You find a lot of the Fortune 500 do not carry debt on their financial statements.
Some great tips, and not to discourage anybody, entrepreneurship is a great thing. JB Bryan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, JB. JB offers free money seminars every Wednesday at noon and Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. at her office in Glen Allen. Pre-registration is required.
We'll link you to that information at WTVR.com/VTM. Thanks, JB. We'll see you soon. You're welcome.